Hi PJC. I wanted to share a reflection in advance of Shavuot. Obviously it's a very special holiday. It's unique and different from all the others. It's hot, it's summer, springy, it's relaxed. It's a 3-day Yom Tov this year. It's dairy focused. Shavuot is different because it's shorter. I think there's more that makes Shavuot different that's worth paying attention to. Shavuot, as described as Zman Matan Torasenu, as the time where God gives us the Torah again, time of Kabbalas HaTorah, where we get to stop and we pause and we think, what role does Jewish ideas, does Jewish teachings, does Jewish education play in our lives? It's very unique. Right, on Pesach, we think about Jewish history and stories and where we've been and where we're going. And on Sukkot, we think about the world we live in and how temporary things are. And on Shavuot, we think about our values. We think about our teachings. We think about Torah study, and we think about what role and connection we have to Torah. And it can be hard because if we didn't have a great Jewish education experience, or if we haven't learned Torah in a long time, we can feel guilty about it. We can feel resentful. We can feel that we're not worthy. We can feel all these different kinds of emotions around whether we should or shouldn't be involved in Torah study during this time. But Shavuot gives us the opportunity, it lends us the permission to say, let's put all of that aside. Put all of the emotions and all of the feelings aside. All of the guilt and all of the bad and all of the resentment and all of the inadequacies and all of the stuff that we associate with how we feel about Torah, with how we feel about our education, with how we feel about Jewish ideas. Just put it aside for a couple of days and engage vulnerably and meaningfully and thoughtfully with God's gift to us, the Torah, Jewish ideas. And so I wanted to share this video to invite you over Shabbat, over Shavuos, coming weekend. There's a number of different opportunities to learn, to study, to explore Torah together. There's going to be printed materials in Shul, Torah to go from YU, other printed materials available for you. Pick it up if you want to learn Torah on your own time. Grab it, take it, enjoy it. Between Mincha Marav each day, we're going to be exploring ideas that are more halachic. Why do we stand for Aseres HaDibros? Or are we supposed to stand for Aseres HaDibros, for example? Or why do we read the Megillah, Rus, before Kriyas HaTorah, when we read Megillas Esther after Kriyas HaTorah? Very technical questions, but they are actually quite interesting and fascinating reasons as to why, very deliberate reasons as to why, and give us a thought-provoking idea as to why and how we structure our davening, why and how we structure Jewish life. That's between Mincha Marav. The drashas on Shabbos morning and on Shavuos second day are going to focus on two different topics. Shabbos morning, we're going to be starting the book of Bamidbar, brand new book. And I've been thinking a lot about the stories of Bamidbar and how the Jewish people's story changes. Right? They went into the desert with a promise, with an expectation that things would be a certain way, that they would be going to the promised land within a certain period of time. And they didn't know how to imagine what their lives would be like. And so we know that the Jewish people send meraglim, they send spies out to the land of Israel because they have trouble, they have difficulty imagining what will be. And they get into trouble because of it. And so Shabbos morning, I hope together in the drasha, we're going to explore how the Torah guides us to be flexible, to be resilient when things don't go the way you imagine they will. And then on second day Shavuos, of course, we have Yizkor. I hope to share a thought regarding Ruth and her resilience, her ability to commit to wanting to be part of the Jewish people, wanting to integrate into the Jewish people, even just being attacked by a bee. Sorry. Ruth wanting to integrate into the Jewish people, even when it's so difficult, even when she's alone, even when there's a social force pushing her out. You know, it's so interesting that we read the book of Ruth on Shavuot, because what's it got to do with the day? That's the fundamental question I want to explore together. What has Ruth and her story got to do with Shavuot, got to do with the themes of Kabbalas Torah, got to do with this day? And I wonder if Ruth and the fundamental underlying messages of Boaz being able to accept an outsider, Boaz being able to break down his social structure and saying to himself, you know, here's a woman who needs chesed, here's a woman who needs to be integrated into my community, here's a woman who needs to be part of my social circle, not because she's nebuch, not because she's in need, but because I need her, I need the opportunity to broaden my social circle, I need the opportunity to do chesed. Perhaps reading that story on Shavuot is so powerful. It's such a powerful lesson before we engage with Limud Torah. We'll explore that on the second day in Shavuot. And then, of course, the night of Shavuot, one of the pièces de résistance of our year together, is the all-night learning. I feel so blessed each year to be able to study Torah, to prepare for about 5 hours of Torah study. It's one of the highlights of my life. One of the highlights of my Torah study life. This year we are going to focus on one of the most wild, dynamic, important moments in Jewish history, the years 0 to 200, the first 2 centuries of the last 2 millennia. If you think about that time, you think about the events of that era, the destruction of the temple, the founding of the first Jewish school in the city of Yavne. If you think about the fact that the Mishnah was created during that time and the diaspora Jewry was created during that time, all of a sudden you begin to realize that what we have today was put into place during those first 2 centuries. And the question that we are going to tackle on Shavuot night is how? How was that done? Who were the personalities and what was their vision for us? What ingredients did they put into the stew, into the recipe that they were creating for us? There's one brilliant personality, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that anticipated the destruction of the temple and said, instead of trying to guarantee the safety of the temple, he realized that was a lost cause, and he said, instead of the temple, I want a Jewish school. Why was that what he requested? Why was that such a powerful request? And why are we still reaping the benefits of his leadership? There are so many pieces, so many details of this discussion. How the early Christians influenced Rabbinic Judaism. How the location of this school influenced Rabbinic Judaism. How the sectarianism of the last 200 years of the temple identifies as sinas chinam, as baseless hatred, which the Talmud itself identifies the reason why the temple was destroyed. How Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and his colleagues worked tirelessly to undermine sinas chinam, to make sure that it doesn't happen. And how they were left with a question, whether they were successful or not. Because you can create a structure that technically gets rid of sectarianism, but can you change people's hearts? Shavuot night, I think it's going to be magnificent. We have so many interesting, engaging, thought-provoking sources. From some classic Talmud sources, the oven of Achnai, the first massive debate in Yavne, in this first school, about power and about succession. We have some sources from the New Testament. We have Rabbi Meir Soloveitchik. We have Professor Shai Cohen of Harvard. There's wonderful, engaging, thought-provoking sources. We're going to have good food as well. I hope over the course of Shavuot you will consider joining us at some point. It's going to be a special holiday. It's going to be a beautiful holiday. It's going to be a delicious holiday. Please God, I hope it will be inspiring and an opportunity for us to set aside any hesitation we have to engage with Torah study meaningfully and to grab hold of Matan Torah, to grab hold of Sinai, and to say we're here to accept the Torah anew.